I'm sorry for coming late. I didn't intend to. I got lost in your campus.
More of this we all got.
In this campus, there are many lost souls, sir.
Especially if you're on the right track, you get lost here. Some of them are forming a human chain also. They're so lost, they're forming a human chain.
When I was listening to Krishnaji talking about planning commission, this is not what I want to talk about, but I recalled two bits of personal experience for planning commission. In the 70s, I was trying to look at the Green Revolution, and one was getting data all over that there is this is the target for amount of land to be brought in the HID, this is the target for money to put in sectors, and so on. And I wanted to see that this is the target for the inputs, and what is the target for outputs. And while I was looking at various things, I came across some cognitive plan evaluation cell, and I looked at its reports. And right in the beginning of every report, they say it's not the part of the mandate of the cell to evaluate outputs. Our mandate is to evaluate inputs. Respect, you are evaluating how much fertilizer to put, but you are not giving the number as to when you put 1 unit of fertilizer, how many units of food grains extra you expect out of it. Even that number was not there. That number was not there. And another incident which every year I used to get very disturbed. There's some 1 month when the planning commission one by one calls all chief ministers. They hold a darbar. And the planning commission come, the chief ministers come with all their secretaries sitting in attendance. And the evening it is decided how much the state will get. I used to be surprised what kind of union of states we are, where the state chief ministers will, all of their bureaucracy have to come and present themselves before a set of officers or bureaucrats and beg for money. This is no way of, and it is actually good that planning Niti Ayog is now more or less the National Development Council with the secretariat, and that's how it should have been from the beginning. But coming to the issue that I wanted to discuss with you, when Nirban said that we evaluate the 7 months of what tracking down, I felt that I'll not be talking about what has been done in these 7 months, but what's the perspective and the context in which we look at what this new government is trying to do. And that context is important. Many of you will remember when the elections were going on for the union, there was a set of scholars, many of them based abroad, who issued a very important statement. It appeared in many of the important foreign journals, saying that the emergence of Narendra Modi and NDA constitutes a palpable threat to the future of our secular democracy, that the idea of India as we know it till now is under threat. That time we had issued a counter statement in which I just want to read it out, a small part of it. What we had written was that we call upon the people of India to rejoice at the emergence of a leadership that is committed to restoring the glory of India as one of the most ancient, populous, and important civilizations of the world. Let us rejoice that for the first time since independence, there has appeared a definite possibility of India developing into a normal nation, comfortable with and proud of our culture and civilization, and seriously engaged in quickly uplifting all her people out of the long phase of deprivation and stress. Both these components are important. You need a government which is concerned with the past, which builds itself on the past tradition, your civilization inheritance. Because you can't build things without rules. You can't build things in air. And you need a government which is concerned, as Nirban seems to have said in the beginning, with the last person, which is concerned that India should never not have any poor. India never had any poor, except perhaps the last 200 years. And the previous governments had failed on both counts. Whatever happened till now can be broadly termed as Nehruvian paradigm of India, Nehruvian idea of India. And Nehruvian idea, one of the major components of it, in fact, perhaps the most important component of it was that it began with an antipathy towards the Indian civilizational tradition. It had a very explicit antipathy to the indigenous. I don't know where that antipathy came from. Perhaps it was from the leftist leanings of Jawaharlal Nehru. In fact, Sitaram Goel studied the genesis and growth of Nehruvianism, and he said this, that in the process of pressing forward communist patterns of thought and action, Nehru became more and more alienated from India's indigenous society and culture. At the same time, he became more and more friendly towards every factor and force which was out to disintegrate this country, uproot its people, and destroy its cultural heritage. I was surprised this book was written in early 60s. This is the kind of terms and the phrases we have to use even today. That you had constructed a polity which was out to destroy the unity of India, out to destroy the cultural heritage of India, and had a very distinct antipathy to it. In fact, I don't know, in our time when we were young, it was almost obligatory to read this Glimpses of World History and the biography of Jawaharlal Nehru. And even at that time when I read these two books, one thing which came very strongly to me was that he has so much passion for India, claims to have so much passion for India. But that passion seems to be so abstract that he doesn't like the land of India, he doesn't like the people of India, he doesn't like the mannerisms of India, he doesn't like the food of India. But still he is in love with India. I don't know what India he is in love with, because I could not make out anything in all his writing. In fact, he doesn't like the climate of India. And not liking the climate of India became such a passion that Romila Thapa started writing that Indian people are lazy because this is written in 7th class textbook. That Indian people are lazy because the climate is hot. It became this level of stupidity. And that became persistent. That was Nehruvianism. That you don't like India, but you still have some kind of emotional attachment to it, but not any particular thing of it, not one of those you like. And not liking India quintessentially meant not liking Hindus, because indigenous tradition is Hindu tradition, civilization tradition is Hindu tradition. So the antipathy towards Hindus became even bigger, and it also became convenient, because once the electoral processes began to be understood, being anti-Hindu meant that you will have a certain bank of minority votes. And so there was an ideological leaning and there was an electoral convenience. Both got together to start creating a polity in which one of my very senior political scientist colleagues, last week I was with him, he said that he converted Hindus into Dhimmis. I don't like that term, it's a very bad term. It's a definitional term of Abrahamic religions. But what it essentially means that if you are Dhimmis, you can practice your religion at home. Privately you can practice, you are allowed to, you can be suffered to practice your religion. But it will have no meaning in the polity of the country, in the political life of the country, or in the social life of the country. That's what happened to the Hindus. They became dhimmis in India. That's what that very senior political scientist told me. And he said that nothing else may have happened with the coming of Narendra Modi, but Hindus have stopped being dhimmis anymore. They now matter in the politics, in the political life of this country. And they have the freedom to express themselves. They had this freedom before independence. The British were against the Hindus, but partly the way the independence movement was constructed, it was all on the Hindu ideas. Mahatma Gandhi had constructed the whole idea of satyagraha, of civil disobedience, everything on the basis of Hindu ideas. So Hindus mattered in the political life of India before independence. After independence, slowly Nehru, as Mahatma Gandhi died, and other important leaders also became less important or passed away. Nehru was able to do this, that he was able to convert, make Hindus not matter in the public life of India, and so the Indian tradition was not matter, Indian civilization was not to matter, to a large extent Indian people were not to matter. We were in the business of constructing India, which was in the image of somewhere else, in the imagination of some other people. It was not in the imagination of the Indian people that we were building India. And that has changed. That has changed. In fact, not that any particular thing has happened, particular action has been taken, which shows that it has changed. But the mere phraseology of the campaign that went on, the kind of language that got used, and the terms that got spoken, that had never happened. The simple fact that the Prime Minister of India, the potential Prime Minister of India, chose to contest from Varanasi. It was not unimportant. Varanasi came to Delhi, and whole of the Nehruvian effort was to throw Varanasi out of the political spectrum of India. In fact, Dharparji used to recall that in the 60s, he was traveling by a train from UP to Delhi, and the train used to go that time from up to Hardwar, maybe going now also. And he started talking with the passengers, and he told them that they were going to Hardwar. It was very interesting. I will not go to the whole. He told them that you're going to Hardwar. This train is passing through Delhi. Why don't you get down in Delhi and this capital of India? Why don't you go and look around and then move on to Hardwar? And they said, no, we have nothing to do with this Delhi. We'll go to Hardwar, and then there's time when Delhi is ours, we'll come here. And this was 60s, but this is the kind of separation that had occurred with the traditional India and the modern India and the Nehru's India. With so much talk about Ganga Aarti, so much talk about Varanasi, I think to an extent we have restored that connection. But this is only again at the level of phraseology, at the level of thought. But that was important to have happened. But the connection will not get restored very easily, because as we all know, Nehru, it was not only that he gave that one idea. Nehru concerned himself with every aspect of Indian life. And he writes very extensively. And I don't think there is any part of Indian life or Indian polity about which he wouldn't have spoken from the Nehruvian angle. And Nehruvian angle of saying things became the academy, for the Academy of India, that became the way of thinking about everything. So whatever we do, whether we are doing history, whether we are doing political science, whether we are doing sociology, and I have looked at all these things, we are doing it in the Nehruvian manner, in the manner where India doesn't matter, or India is to be ignored. And since this is so deep-rooted and widespread, it will take some doing to ultimately change the direction of thought. In fact, there was this Indian History Congress recently, and reporting on it in this Mainstream has carried an article, a couple of articles on it, the current issue of Mainstream. And one of the articles, I think, Adri Rana, he is very sarcastically has written that this the new government thinks that they have changed the way of thinking of India, or they will be able to do it. But it cannot happen so easily, because he is saying this, that in every nook and corner of the bureaucracy, there are people who think like this. In every think tank of India, who think the Nehruvian way, in the ICSR, in the ICPR, in the ICHR, everywhere there are people who think in this direction, and not only in the JNU, which is anyway built on the Nehruvian thought, every university of India, this is the way we have been thinking. We have not thought in any other manner. And he is very sarcastically and very strongly saying that there's nothing much to worry. These people only talk about it, but nothing much will change because we are everywhere. And that warning that he has given should be a warning for us. That there is a new government, but there's much that needs to be done. And much of that needs to be done is not what the government will do. It is we who are concerned about India who have to start acquiring new habits of thought, new ways of looking at the world from an Indian perspective. We have to start. Indian languages were never taken seriously. Indian Shastra was never taken seriously. You know, one of the chairmen of ICSSR, in writing he has said that for doing sociology in India, none of the literature of India matters. In so many words, in fact, people took issue with him, foreigners took issue with him, but he stood by that proposal, that Indian literature doesn't matter for doing social sciences in India. No, we have to come out of that. We have to create new, maybe in places like JNU, we should have new study circles. We should try and transform ICSSR and of the way of doing research in India, social research in India. We should try and transform ICPR. It will take time, it will take energy, it will take great effort. But for building Nehruvian India, some effort has been put in. Much larger, much greater effort will have to be put in if we want to undo that India and build an India which is in the image of India and not in the image of somebody else. This is what I wanted to say about this social and academic issue. I think very seriously we have to start redoing academics, create a new academia for ourselves, so that world also takes us seriously and we are taken seriously by ourselves. The other, I don't know how much time I have, but there was also an economic angle to which our Secretary Synergy mentioned. The Nehruvian politics was this, that don't let the traditional India breathe, come anywhere near the political life of India, modern life. And there was an economic angle. And that I was surprised. The problem with this economics, as far as I understand, that is a puny economics. The numbers were small that he was dealing with. The imagination was small. In fact, when in the 70s I started looking at the macroeconomic figures of India, I used to often think that you look at the figures of the world and take a table of basic economic output of India, say how much steel, how many cars, how many cycles, how many sewing machines, how much food. You produce, take some 20 parameters and write it down and don't put India on top of it. And give it to any good economist he never imagined that these figures refer to a country of the dimensions of India. He would have thought that this referred to Israel or to some as small a country as that. That were the kind of numbers we have been dealing with. We talk big, we talk very big, and I've gone to some of those plants that he called the temples of. I've gone to the Sindhari plant, I've gone to the Durg plant where he has put his messages are put. Anyway, those plants are in complete decay now, by the way, because they were so thoughtlessly put that they could not have continued for too long. But we talked that big, but the numbers were very small. And as Secretary was telling, even today, and many of the countries, we would have been much behind us at the time we started building India, or should have started building India, are far ahead of us, far ahead, quantitatively so far ahead that they become different, qualitatively different countries. Another thing, I believe that what the new government at least is thinking, whether thinking in the right direction or not, that time will tell, but thinking big. One of the small, I think I will speak of this number and then we'll stop. 3 days ago, there was a statement from the Government of India that the amount of energy from nuclear power will triple from 5,000 megawatts to 15,000 megawatts. Around 5,000. Now, first of all, 5,000 megawatts India producing in 2014. In a country where I think the Indian scientists, in fact, Indian nuclear scientists, one of the most patriotic establishments, very nationalist. And I think decades ago, they had perfected the technology of pressurized heavy water reactors. They are one of the safest technologies of a government concerned about India would have ensured that even if they were only, that time I think if they were only 220 megawatts, now they are able to make it up to 600 and they can go up to 1000 megawatts. But even if you had the technology of 220 megawatts, it only needed the support of the Government of India to put hundreds of such plants. And if you had put those hundreds of such plants, you would have so much of technology and so much of nuclear material around that you would not have needed the kind of nuclear arrangement you had to enter in 7-8 years ago. And when that arrangement we entered into, somebody asked me, what do you say about it? And he said, look, if by entering into this deal, if we put in sufficient work to ensure that instead of 4,000 megawatt, that time it was not even 4,000 megawatt, in the next 15 years, we start producing something like 40,000 megawatts, then this deal will be worth it. But I also said that in all probability we will not do that. Maybe we will go to 10,000 megawatts. And then it will only mean that we have given up our nuclear independence and gained nothing in return. But we were going in that direction. I hope this new government, when it says that we'll increase the nuclear output to 15,000 megawatts. In fact, we should think even bigger because 15,000 megawatts is too small. It will still be less than 3% of total Indian energy output at that time. If we start thinking in those directions, I think quickly we'll reach that point where India will start looking bigger than, better than what it is today. The way India today is, it's painful to look at the data and the figures of India. Another important figure which is extremely important and which all governments should have paid attention long ago, which our government should and perhaps will pay attention because many BJP governments have paid attention to this issue, is the production of food in India. We produce, and give this is the last thing I talk about. We produce about 200 kg of food per capita. 200 kg, you can make a quick calculation, multiply by 120 million, and come to about 240 million tons, which is what we produce. When the population goes up a little, we go from 250, maybe go to 250. When population was less, we were around 200. But our average has remained around 200 kg per capita of food grains production. 200 kg per capita of production does not mean 200 kg available for consumption. That will be more like 160, 180. And 160, 180 kg per capita of consumption per year normally is considered famine situation. And this has been the situation in India from throughout the independence. It happened in the pre-independence period, it continued more or less. Many countries of the world were like this even up to 1970. Now there is no country of the world which does not produce at least 3 times this per capita terms. And I think if we want to become a normal country, we have to increase our food production within a framework of about 10 years to about 3 times what we produce today. And that is doable. Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh has shown that it can be done. Gujarat has shown that it can be done. If, like Madhya Pradesh, like Gujarat, all other states also start moving in that direction, then my personal feeling always been the day India started producing 600 kg per capita instead of 200 kg, or even 400 kg per capita per year instead of 200 kg, that day India can be labeled a developed country, a normal, regular developed country. From that day onward, there will be really no poverty in India. But doing that much of food requires many things to be done along with it. And my feeling is, my hope is, my wish is that this new government, which is very nationalistic, which is concerned about the glory of India, the greatness of India, will not only restore the greatness in our academia, which to a large extent is our responsibility, it also will restore the greatness in the economic sphere, which will mean increasing food production, increasing energy production, increasing sleep production, so that when we put the data, somewhere the data is put in the world, it looks like India and doesn't look like some puny country somewhere. Thank you.